Brother Man. Brother Man in 1988, created by the Sims brothers, not only inspired me, but it inspired a whole generation of young African-American comic book creators. Because this was the book that we were waiting for. This was the independent book that we were clamoring for, that we knew that could just come out of this. Antonio Sims, the lead character, he's a public defender by day, and he's all about justice, and he's all stiff upper lipped and stuff and things like that. And at night, he becomes Brother Man. And the backstory is really interesting because his father was a political activist, so he has this political activism in him. Everything is going to be all right. I loved Brother Man because of the art style, which was a combination of like hip-hop graffiti and Mad Magazine. Loved it because of the writing, because the writing was the first time that I heard an authentic voice with an African-American character and creators, and this was very, very influential. Things happened during that time. First was the birth of Image Comics. How many of you guys are familiar with Image? Right. Image Comics was a revelation. The top 7 artists in Marvel making bank at Marvel, drawing X-Men, drawing Spider-Man, decided to bounce and form their own creation and own their own characters. And during that time, everybody was like, especially Marvel was like, harumph, that'll never work, harumph, 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 you'll be back, you'll be back. They became millionaires overnight. The second thing that was super important was the birth of Milestone Media. How many of you guys are familiar with Milestone Media? Right on. Milestone Media was the ultimate turning point. You had 4 brothers. You had Dennis Cohen. You had Derek Dingle, Michael Davis, and Dwayne McDuffie, who's still the man, by the way. For those of you who are comic fans, you guys, have you seen the cartoon Justice League Unlimited? He was the reason why the last 3 seasons were so sweet. He was. But with Milestone, with Icon, which was probably my favorite book out of the whole Milestone book, Icon and Rocket, Static, which was my second favorite. For those of you who are a little bit younger, you guys see the Static Shock cartoon? Right. This is like the biggest, this is probably their most successful franchise. Hardware, which was a good book, Blood Syndicate, Shadow Cabinet. What Milestone showed me was that I could create characters that represented me, represented my culture, and that they would be successful in the broader culture. My own concepts. And the first concepts that I created were mythology based. One of them was called The Race. And the idea behind The Race came from a couple of different areas. It came from, of course, mythology and the stories of the heroes of, mythology, the sons and daughters of gods, battling other forces, Theseus versus the Minotaur. Of course, the Perseus story, which I realized after I read it that Clash of the Titans was bogus because Pegasus was never in there, and that whole thing, but I never minded that. But the other influence came from a video game that was out in the late 80s, early 90s. Any of you guys remember this game, World Heroes? It was one of those Capcom games that wasn't quite as popular as Street Fighter 2V. But the game was cool because it had this whole international aspect. You could be a hero from a different country. You could be from England, you could be from China, and they had moves and stuff like that. And I thought that was cool. And I applied that idea to The Race and to world mythology. man by the name of Lamorris Richard. Still one of my very best friends to this day. We met at the Motor City Comic Con in '95, and we met through a mutual friend of ours. Lamorris was looking for an artist for his book. And the idea of his book was this: the cream of African American society seceded from the United States in the 1930s. The whole idea of W.E.B. Du Bois' Talented Tenth, that sort of thing, the Talented Tenth was like, we're up out of here. And they created a country within the United States called the Pan-African American Coalition. And their symbol was this dude who wore a Sambo mask and dressed in the outfits of the jobs that black folks could get during that day. Porter, waiter, cook. And he used those negative images against the oppressors. The name of the book was Jiba Devil. Mad provocative. Alright? The kind of thing that normally people, and even when this happened, people were like, I can't believe they did a book like that. I'm not even going to pick it up. It's offensive. It's like, but you didn't even read the story. When I met Lamorris and I heard the concept and I saw the image, I'm like, brother, I feel you. I'm down. I want to be the artist on this book. And Lamorris gave me my first entree into creating comics.